In 2024, Donald Trump was remarkably successful at getting wealthy businessmen to back him. After the stock market crash caused by his tariffs, though, some are now having second thoughts. Bill Ackman is a billionaire investor who became one of Trump's loudest supporters before the election. This is what he said late last year.
We're stepping into, I would say, the most pro-growth, pro-business, pro-American administration I've perhaps seen in my adult lifetime. Certainly, we just had a nice little ceremony, and CEOs of broad array of big American companies, and I would say everyone is incredibly enthusiastic, really about a new administration that's about efficiency, removing the impediments to growth, deregulation.
Everyone's just so excited for a Trump presidency. Ackman, though, now has changed his mind. He's not smiling. So he's tweeted, "I just figured out why Howard Lutnick is indifferent to the stock market and the economy crashing. He and Cantor are long bonds. He profits when our economy implodes. It's a bad idea to pick a Secretary of Commerce whose firm is levered long fixed income. It's an irreconcilable conflict of interest." So Howard Lutnick is Trump's Commerce Secretary. Cantor is Howard Lutnick's hedge fund. That hedge fund has invested in government bonds. This is I'm unpicking this tweet for you. Government bonds, the key detail here, they always go up in value during times of economic disruption because they're considered safe. So people say, oh, if the stock market's going down, where can we put our money that's safe? Let's put it in government bonds. Because while the value of companies can go down, the American government is always going to pay you back if you lend it money. Ackman is now suggesting that Lutnick could be intentionally crashing the economy to make a tidy profit. Oh, how times change. So enthusiastic back then, encouraging people. Well, Donald Trump had just been elected then, but before that, he was campaigning for Donald Trump. Now he's saying, not only is Donald Trump making bad policy, but Donald Trump is so corrupt that his commerce secretary is intentionally crashing the economy just to make a few bucks. Elon Musk, of course, is another billionaire who backed Donald Trump. Now he's in the Trump administration, heading up Doge. But he also seems upset with Trump's trade war. And today, posted a curious clip on X of arch free trader Milton Friedman.
There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down to the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. It was a magic of the price system, the impersonal operation of prices that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more, to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
Now, we don't normally show you clips of Milton Friedman extolling the virtues of free markets and sort of dissing socialism. But it was interesting because Elon Musk tweeted that out today. And of course, you could say that pencil produced by workers and machines in so many countries may have been much more expensive if at each stage, each of those companies had to pay very high tariffs. Ash, the timing of that tweet from Elon Musk seemed very pointed. There'll be lots of people sort of on Wall Street hoping that the billionaires who backed Donald Trump are now going to rein him in. What do you see happening here?
Well, I do love it when the ruling class fights, Michael. I've got to say, I enjoy it the way I would a heavyweight boxing match. The first thing to say is that because Donald Trump has been so electorally successful, particularly with this second administration, it's easy for that success to paper over the fissures and the divisions within his own, not just electoral coalition, but the oligarchs and plutocrats who surround him. We saw it relatively early on in his administration, with Elon Musk being on one side of the what was it, the H-1B visa, um, which basically meant that you could have tech workers coming over from India and working in the States. You had Elon Musk and others who are sort of associated with Silicon Valley on one side that are pro H-1B visa, and you had others like Steve Bannon, most notably, who are more connected to, I suppose, the blue collar base from which Donald Trump is seeking votes, saying no, 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 you have to get rid of it. It's not surprising to me that tariffs, the end of so called free trade, one of the things we know about free trade is that it's nothing but it's often been exported by America at the barrel of a gun. But the end of the so called free trade era is unappealing to some of Trump's supporters, depending on how exposed they are to the economic volatility that's going to result from this tariff policy. What's interesting, going back to Bill Ackman and saying, well, Lutnick's all in longs, and so this is a conflict of interest. Is the bit he's not saying is that, well, maybe because you're on the losing side of this. Of course, Bill Ackman is a billionaire hedge funder. Um, Pershing, I believe it's called, what was it? Pershing Square Capital Management. That's exactly the kind of, private, like big private equity fund, which is getting, hit twice over. One is obviously because of, the downturn in the stock market, and the other is that you have big investors pulling out of private equity and have been for the last few days because the thing they're seeking is liquidity. So that's depending on um, what end of the investment portfolio you're on, you can have different billionaires with different levels of exposure. Similarly, when it comes to Elon Musk, one of the things which is so endlessly entertaining about him is that he's just such he's he operates with such naked self interest. So he was in favor of some degree of protectionism when it came to restricting the access that Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers would have to the American market. Why? Because it would massively undercut Tesla. And then suddenly, when you've got this set of tariffs, which are much more blanket and obviously are going to have some impact on, the value of his investments. Oh no, no, he's a free marketeer. Um, these people don't want an equal playing field where all can compete against all. Another reason why Elon Musk was so interested in that Wisconsin judicial race, his side lost, by the way, was perhaps because, the state of Wisconsin was not allowing Tesla to have a sweetheart deal where they got to opt out of rules that would govern other local car dealerships. So, you scratch a free marketer, what you find is nothing but naked self interest, rules for thee and not for me. And what we're seeing is how, suddenly great moralists and philosophers are made of these men when it's their investments which are losing value.
I suppose Bill Ackman would say, I don't know much about his business interests, but he'd say he gets rich when the economy grows, and Lutnick gets rich when the economy crashes. And so he'd say that's why you should trust me and not that guy. Although I can see actually later today he actually said it was unfair for him to lash out at Howard Lutnick. So someone's been in touch with him and saying this is very embarrassing for your friend Trump, and the nasty Democrats, they'd increase your taxes. So you shouldn't dare criticize this man. Or maybe actually that Trump was going to lash out at some of his business interests. On the issue of sort of the stock market, so I asked Yanis whether Novara media viewers should care if the stock market is declining. I thought his answer was very interesting. One person that historically has cared is Donald Trump. So throughout his whole first term, he would sort of be constantly bragging in press conferences, everything is good, I'm a brilliant president because the stock market is going up. Do you think that sort of this situation where the stock market is rapidly sort of falling can continue, or do you think that Trump will try and fashion some kind of U-turn at some point? Obviously, he won't call it a U-turn. He'll say, "Oh, I've actually achieved a
Mm.
stunning victory. I've taken away these tariffs because Europe has agreed to get rid of one particular rule and regulation or whatever." You know what he did sort of originally with Canada and Mexico, where he said they've agreed to stop the fentanyl coming across the border, therefore I'm going to lower the tariff. Do you think that if this continues, he will fashion a U-turn, even though he'll disguise it as victory?
I mean, look, he may do. He may do. There's one thing that I try not to do, and that's predict what Donald Trump is going to do next, because I think he also feels that his own power resides in unpredictability and volatility. There's this brilliant bit in Marx's 18th Brumaire where he talks about Napoleon being like the juggler who has to keep attention on himself by creating ever more chaotic situations. I think that's Donald Trump. So I'm not going to try and predict where he's going to go next. But I think, just to go back to the start of your question, when you pointed out that one of the things that he said during his first administration was, look at the stock market. The stock market's never been greater. It's never been bigger. Line goes up. So beautiful. And this sort of markedly different tone and posture and policy agenda that he's pursuing now. Asted Herndon, who is a political reporter for the NYT, I think put it very, very well, which is the theme of this second Trump administration is retribution. And for, the MAGA faithful who feel that they were hard done by, and, persecuted and oppressed over the Biden years, for them to feel that they are getting vengeance of some kind. And that's becomes much more important to Trump than catering to the median voter. And I think once you understand that, decisions like this begin to make sense. It also, I think, coheres with something which has been remarkably consistent on Trump's part, singularly consistent on Trump's part, which is how he thinks about the world and how he thinks about financial exchange. And the way in which I summed it up in last Friday's Cortado was break bones, exert leverage, and remember there's no such thing as an equal partner. So the way in which he views these tariffs is that it's sweeping, it's punishing, and it's going to bring other countries squealing to the negotiating table to offer concessions which are ultimately going to be favorable to America or to, the section of capital that Trump himself, represents. Um, yes, that doesn't rule out that he might, try and spin a climb down or a backtrack as some kind of glorious victory. That's again something that he does, but I do just think that it's consistent with his way of doing business.